Good morning. Welcome to worship at St. Peter's United Church of Christ, where no matter who you are or where you are in life's journey, you are welcome here. As always, we give thanks to our media intern, Ashley Liljeberg, for the shooting, editing, and producing of this web worship service. We hope you're able to light a candle now to share the presence of the Holy Spirit and to unite us as one in worship, as we've been doing every week during this pandemic. Thank you for keeping your offerings and pledges current by using the mail, the St. Peter's website, or the Tithely app. You know, our Board of Deacons have sent out the annual appeal for our pledges and financial commitments for the 2021 year. And the theme this year is Zoom in on faith, hope, and love. And we will dedicate those pledges in worship today. If you have not sent in your pledge card, the deacons invite you to do so now, so they may plan for the financial needs of our ministries for the coming year. Now, next week, on November 1st, we'll remember the saints of our church who have passed in this last year, as well as share Holy Communion together. The Board of Elders have suspended our outdoor worship services for the remainder of this year, mostly due to weather issues. The Church Council is continuing their discussions on limited indoor worship opportunities, but nothing is planned for the near future. And thank you for joining us for this web worship. Now let us worship the God who calls us to love our neighbors as ourselves.
This is the day our God has made. Happy are those who follow the ways of the Lord, for God's ways are merciful and just. When we follow God's ways, we are continually nourished in our faith. In all we do, we prosper. So come, open your hearts to God's compassionate love. Come and celebrate God's mercy and justice.
Our New Testament reading for the day is from Matthew chapter 22, verses 34 to 46. When the Pharisees heard that he had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a lawyer, asked him a question to test him. "Teacher, which of the commandment in the law is the greatest?" He said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets." Now, while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them this question: "What do you think of the Messiah? Whose son is he?" They said to him, "The son of David." He said to them, "How is it then that David by the Spirit calls him Lord, saying, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet'? If David thus calls him Lord, how can he be his son?" No one was able to give him an answer, nor from that day did anyone dare ask him any more questions. Thus ends today's reading.
Hello all, it's Pastor Amanda here with this portion of the Word for All Ages. Miss Jennifer and I are actually sharing this because it is Bible Sunday here at the church. So children, I hope you gather around. Now, being that it's Bible Sunday, I wanted to talk to you about the Bible, the Holy Bible. 66 individual little books that make up stories and tales and poems and songs and prayers about God and God's relation to us, humanity. And there's a lot of great stories in here, from David and Goliath to Jonah and the whale to Moses that we've been hearing about in worship, to Jesus, obviously, to the Apostle Paul, there's a lot. And like I said, there's poems and there's hymns and there's prayers. There's just a lot in this book, in these little books. Now, today is also Reformation Sunday, and we might not celebrate it really here at St. Peter's, but we wouldn't be here at St. Peter's or even have the Bible in our own language if it wasn't for that Reformation. I'm also told that children keep an eye out for Lego Martin Luther. I think he's going to appear at some point in the service. But Martin Luther, big reformer, is probably the one that we know the most about. It's the one that we hear about the most in worship and here at church. But amongst many things that Martin Luther did for the Reformation and for us, right, many, many years later, is he took the Bible and he translated it, meaning that he took the Bible that was written in a different language and put it in his own language, which would have been German at the time. And because of that, because he took the time to translate it, to switch it over to a different language, we are now able to have the Bible in our own language, in English. It's also the reason why we have picture books of the Bible for children. I'm sure many of you might have books like that, or even Bibles that are like that. Because of him, because of what he did in taking from one language and taking it over to a different language, the language that we speak and read. For us, it's English. So the Bible is important because we can read it. Before, we wouldn't have been able to read it. But thanks to Martin Luther, we are, which is fantastic. And whatever version of the Bible you may have, whether there's pictures in it, whether it's this one that we give to our fifth graders, whatever, I hope that you use it. Some of my Bibles, the spines are falling off, they're written in, pages are torn, it's highlighted, I've even doodled in them. And when we're able to be back together, I will gladly show you some of those. They're in my office here at the church. But whatever version you use, I hope you bring it to Disciple Zone, bring it to Seekers, bring it to church, read it at home, look at the pictures, write in it, highlight passages that you like. Use it. Use the Bible. It's meant to be used. It's meant to be read. It's meant to be used in general, right? Books are like that, especially this one that talks about God and talks about God's relationship with us, with humanity. So I hope that you take a chance to do that, and just remember that if it wasn't for Martin Luther and all that he did and all those other reformers, what they did, we wouldn't be able to read the Bible on our own. So this is fantastic, in our own language. This is fantastic, so I hope that you take a chance to read it.
Yes, Martin Luther, you sure did do a good job with the Reformation. And hi there! If you're a first-time visitor to our Disciple Zone at Home studios, welcome! In today's Disciple Zone at Home video, we talk a lot about Martin Luther, and little Luther even teaches us a whole lot about the Reformation. So I hope you'll check us out if you haven't already. Now, Pastor Amanda talked a lot about how the Bible is to be used and read, but did you know that there are also a lot of songs about the Bible? Now, I know we all know this one. The B-I-B-L-E, yes, that's the book for me. I stand alone on the Word of God, the B-I-B-L-E. Now, that song is super famous, but I'm going to teach you a new one today. It's by the composer Mark Burroughs, and it's called The Book of God's Love. We're going to sing it through twice. And if you're comfortable, I'd love for you to join me on the second verse. The words are super easy. Here they are. This is the Bible, the book of God's love. This is the Bible, the book of God's love. Written by people, inspired from above. This is the Bible, the book of God's love. Pretty simple, right? All right, let's hear it. Inspired from above. This is the Bible, the book of God's love. Isn't that a cute little tune? Why don't you join with me this time? Here we go. This is the Bible, the book of God's love. This is the Bible, the book of God's love. Written by people inspired from above. This is the Bible, the book of God's love. Thanks for singing along. Now, last Sunday in the cold and rain, Pastor Amanda and I gave our fifth graders their very own Bibles, as we do every year around this time. Of course, this year it was a little bit different, but we were able to film it to share with all of you. And here it is.
Evie Nelson, it is our joy and privilege to present you with a Bible. When you read it, remember how deeply you are loved by God and all of us.
Chase Stogus, it is a joy and a privilege to present you with the Bible. When you read it, remember how deeply you are loved by God and all of us.
Will Puchelski, it is our joy and privilege to present you with a Bible. When you read it, remember how deeply you are loved by God and all of us.
There you go. You're welcome.
So please join me in virtually congratulating our 3 fifth graders, Evie, Chase, and Will, on receiving their Bibles. We hope that they'll read it, use it, and even sing about it. Now, back to you, Pastor Amanda, for our closing prayer.
Will you please pray with me? Dear God, thank you for the Bible. Thank you for the words we can read in it and even pictures to help us learn about you and your relationship to us. Help us as we learn to use the Bible and learn the stories within it. Amen. Hope you are well, and I will see you soon. Bye.
We've come to the time now in our morning's worship service where we dedicate our pledges and financial commitments to God. Again, if you have not gotten your pledge in yet, please do so soon, so the Board of Deacons are able to plan financially for the coming year. Please pray with me. Blessed are the poor. Almighty God, may these pledges and offerings of ours remind us of your concern for the poor and of our responsibility to shoulder some of their burden. Blessed are those who mourn. Help us, O God, to use these pledges and gifts for the proclamation of the good news that death does not have the last word. Blessed are the humble. Gracious One, teach us to be humble as these pledges are humble in the light of your generous grace. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice and peace. May these pledges of ours, O God, assist many both near and far in their struggle for justice and peace. Blessed are the merciful. Show us, merciful God, the depth of your mercy in this very act of giving, by reminding us of the gift of your Son Jesus, the Lord of mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart. May this offering of our hands, O God, purify our hearts of selfishness. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. Loving God, empower these pledges of our church to reach out in redemptive love to the persecuted, the oppressed, the neglected, the forgotten. Blessed are you when people shall revile you on my account. Lord, accept the pledges of our congregation and teach us to love the world you love, neither fearing danger nor expecting reward, for the sake of Jesus Christ. Amen.
We enter now into a moment of prayer. I invite you to keep those named in our weekly word email in your prayers, as well as those affected in any way by the pandemic, the wildfires out west, or hurricanes or other natural disasters. With this and many other prayers on our hearts, let us come to God. Merciful God, though we can say we know of your love, too often we don't respond in loving ways. Too often the commandment of loving one another becomes lip service, something we say and do not do. Patient God, open our hearts, dig into our souls, and guide us towards ministries of justice. Inspire us to love all persons, even if we disagree or deem them unlovable. Help us to love ourselves. May the gifts we offer, the gifts you have given us, move us to service, to be true disciples and images of the people you created us to be. Creator God, it is in this spirit that we come to you in prayer, knowing this is one way we reflect your image in how we care and love for one another. We pray for those who are in hospitals today and those at home with illnesses or recovering from treatments, surgeries. We pray for those in nursing homes and those who are homebound. We pray for their families. We pray for those who face death, those who have died, and for those who are grieving. And we pray for doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, and caretakers. We pray for our world, those who face imprisonment and countries torn by war and violence. We pray for those living in poverty and those searching for food or water. We pray for those who have been affected by disasters and for all of us who continue to face a pandemic. Loving God, hear our cries. Give us patience and courage, and may your church, scattered all across this world and over computer screens, may your church be a beacon of hope and light in this world. And may we, your people, do your work out in our community and abroad and reach those in need, those in desperate need of your love. May our prayers be lifted to you, merciful, patient, Creator God. And with one voice we offer these prayers and the prayer you taught us by saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
The title of today's sermon is Towers and Hours. Now, most of the Psalms, as you know, are thought to be written by the shepherd and musician turned king, David. They're poems or songs which reflect the range of emotions elicited in our relationship with God, from joy to lament to gratitude. Today's psalm is one of the oldest we have, perhaps from the time of Moses, whose story we've been following for the last several months. That would make this long-lasting piece of poetry about 3,300 years old. The psalm is attributed to Moses, and tradition holds that it was one of his prayers. Let's hear the word of God now in Psalm 90. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turn us back to dust and say, turn back, you mortals. For 1,000 years in your sight are like yesterday when it is past, or like a watch in the night. You sweep them away. They are like a dream, like grass that is renewed in the morning. In the morning it flourishes and is renewed. In the evening it fades and withers. Turn, O Lord, how long? Have compassion on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your steadfast love, so that we may rejoice and be glad all our days. Make us glad as many days as you have afflicted us, and as many years as we have seen evil. Let your work be manifest to your servants, and your glorious power to their children. Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us, and prosper for us the work of our hands. O prosper the work of our hands. May God add understanding to our hearing of this holy word. Amen. I have a favorite view of the Chicago skyline. I've had this personal version of a Kodak picture spot for about 38 years now, since I spent some time at its location getting hospital experience as a seminarian, and throughout my years in ministry, which includes visiting members in the large downtown teaching hospitals. There is a glorious view of the skyline from the higher floors of the parking garage at Rush University Hospital. I always try to park toward the top when visiting a patient and make sure I'm on the east side of the garage. From that perch, the towers and office buildings that make Chicago the most striking city in the world can all be seen in the same vista, but they look close enough to touch. I've even taken out-of-town friends there for the view. Well, it's okay because as a clergyman I get my parking validated for free. I have seen that same view of the city after sitting with people in their hospital rooms when they took their final breath, or when someone has heard an earth-shaking diagnosis, or after spending time in the waiting room with a concerned family while a loved one has undergone brain surgery, or on my way in to baptize a 2-pound child in the NICU. That view has helped to center me and to ground me for the difficult times in ministry. But it's not just the towers of glass and steel that make the view so spectacular. It's the less impressive high points that can be seen all around. I particularly like seeing the variety and abundance of church steeples. If you permit me a moment of waxing poetic like Moses in our psalm, the steeples, church spires, and towers from that vantage point dart upward from the landscape like so many holy quills on a porcupine. My favorite steeple of late is, of course, our own St. Peter's bell tower. I love seeing it when I drive by or go for walks in the church neighborhood. I've identified it easily when taking off or landing at O'Hare. It's been there for nearly 100 years, standing sentinel over the lives of the people who have passed it by or worshiped in the sanctuary next to it. Sorry, more waxing. Did you know that it's the only church tower or steeple in the area with gargoyles? It houses our bell, which had chimed to call us to worship every week before this pandemic reached out and grabbed its clapper. When I'm under the tower, I can't help but think, Surely the Lord is in this place. It has cast its shadow on nuptial couples and caskets, on youth lock-ins and countless hours of pastoral counseling in our lower level. It has welcomed more than one bagpiper, for the echo inside it is a grand thing. Our St. Peter's Tower transcends time and space, and it can be seen for blocks around. But it's also very present as it watches over our church. And like a magnificent view of the city's skyline or a church tower standing watch in all areas of our life, God transcends, but is also present. Our psalm reminds us that God is our dwelling place for all generations, not just the current one. We're mortal. We return to dust, but God remains. God is still present. All our days pass by, but God is still God. We're born, we grow up, we grow old, and we die. Now that sounds downright cheery, doesn't it? We're born, we live, we die. But doesn't our culture try to convince us that this is not the case? We can stay young or look young forever, right? Plastic surgery, Botox, stem cells, makeovers, health clubs, facelifts, Viagra, and cryogenics are all symptoms of denial of the content of this psalm. Our culture of grannies and leather miniskirts and Grecian formula for men make God chuckle. I think in light of God's transcendent, eternal nature, God laughs. We see the leaves change colors and fall to their demise this time of year, and we're reminded that nothing is permanent. We know that getting older is no fun. I tell you, as soon as I hit 60, my body's check engine light came on big time. This is how Shakespeare put the sentiments of today's psalm. "'Tis but an hour since it was 9, and after one more 'twill be 11. And so from hour to hour we ripe and ripe, and from hour to hour we rot and rot. And thereby hangs a tale." Depressing stuff, huh? But in spite of our denial about how the whole aging thing works, we have to accept that we are mortal. We share in the glorious game called finitude. We end. So our psalmist, whether it's Moses or somebody else just giving him the credit, when he gives us with a message about finitude, it really is a gift. He's telling us that we don't live forever. So we must learn to treasure the time that we have now. Tune into All Saints Sunday next week if you doubt this. We must live the blessing of life today and give thanks to God for our hours. This, says the author of the psalm, is the beginning of wisdom. Teach us to count our days that we may gain a wise heart, says the author. By facing that which our culture urges us to deny, namely our finitude, our God-given human expiration date, we get wise. We gain the possibility of walking through the door into a place called wisdom. And the beginning of that wisdom, I think, in addition to acknowledging our finitude, is believing Jesus when he shares with us the great commandments we heard in our gospel lesson from Matthew. Love God, love our neighbors as ourselves. In spite of the fact that we are like grass that grows, withers, and dies, we can make the best of our time by loving God and loving others. Well, there aren't many times of year in a sermon that I can tell a Halloween story, but we finally come to the right week. This story reflects both wisdom and love, I think. Evelyn Gibbs is an author who writes about life's moments from her home at the base of the Cascade Mountains in Washington. She offers this glimpse of wisdom. The bag of assorted candies was ready, and I'd been looking forward to visits from pint-sized goblins. But Halloween morning, my arthritis flared up, and by evening I could barely move. I couldn't possibly answer each knock on the door to distribute the goodies, so I decided to fasten the candy bar bag to the door and watch the parade of trick-or-treaters from my darkened living room. The first to arrive was a ballet dancer with 3 little ghosts. Each picked out a sweet in turn. Then the last tiny hand emerged full-fisted, and I heard the ballerina say, "You're not supposed to take more than one." I was pleased Big Sister would play conscience for the little one. Princesses, astronauts, skeletons, and aliens followed. More children showed up than I had expected. The candy was running low, and I was about to turn off the porch light when I noticed 4 more visitors. The 3 oldest reached into the bag and pulled out candy bars. I held my breath, hoping there was one left for the tiny witch. But when she pulled out her hand, all it held was a single orange jelly bean. Already the others were calling, "Come on, Emily, let's go. There's no one home to give you more." But Emily lingered an extra moment. She dropped the one piece of candy in her bag and then paused facing the doors. Deliberately, she said, "Thank you, house. I like the jelly bean." The wisdom we might gain is that we can thank God for jelly beans, even for the smallest gifts in life, in a life that seems so finite. But saying thank you and giving back are both parts of that wisdom we hear about in the psalm. Heard another story of an adult daughter who had just brought her father home from the nursing home so he could live out his remaining days with her. It was last year about this time, and with so much on her plate, she had forgotten all about Halloween. She was taking care of Dad and heard the doorbell. She quickly put 2 and 2 together, grabbed whatever she could find in the kitchen, some pennies, pieces of fruit, a few cookies. When she answered the door, she met 3 girls in their early teens. The daughter apologized for her poor treats, and she explained that she'd forgotten all about Halloween because her father had just moved in, and he was very ill. One girl replied, "That's okay, we're sorry about your father. We don't need anything." Then the girls left. But about 5 minutes later, the doorbell rang, and it was the same girls. They had each collected some handfuls of candy from some other kids and handed her a huge bag of goodies so the woman with the sick father would have something to hand out. Folks, not only is that wisdom, that's love of neighbor. We only live a short time compared to the parade of generations God has created. So we're called to be thankful and to love. To find wisdom means loving and forgiving. Our life is transient. We're born, we grow up, we grow old, and we die. Pretty depressing stuff. But only if we choose to see it as a negative. When we find God's wisdom, we can make the same statement with a joyful voice. We are born. What a gift, life itself. We grow up. What a gift. We learn to live and love in the world that God has given to us. We grow old. What a gift. This is the way with all people, and with age comes wisdom. We die. What a gift when we are born to eternal life. I really miss singing together in church. We can't do it these days, but people look very strangely at me when I sing hymns out loud at Walmart. But there is a hymn that's based on the words of Moses from Psalm 90. hear some of those words with me. O God, our help in ages past, our hope for years to come, our shelter from the stormy blast, and our eternal home. Before the hills in order stood, or earth received its frame, from everlasting you are God, to endless years the same. 1,000 ages in your sight are like an evening gone, short as the watch that ends the night before the rising sun. Time, like an ever-rolling stream, soon bears us all away. We fly, forgotten as a dream, fades at the opening day. I close with the true story about two American Christian missionaries in China. They were a married couple with two small children. And when the communists came to power, a party official told them, "You will have to leave the country. You can only take 150 pounds of cargo between you." They surveyed the beautiful treasures they had accumulated over the years, the ivory carvings, the pieces of priceless ink sculptures and sketches on rice paper. It was an agonizing process to choose only a few special items that they wished to keep. A family Bible, a jade statue of Jesus. When they arrived at the dock with their carefully packed bundle, a man with a clipboard said, "Did you weigh your children?" Suddenly, all of their possessions didn't matter so much. We are on this planet that God has given to us for such a brief time. So with the psalmist, we ask, what matters to us? Amen. This service has ended. Our service now begins. Now may the living Christ go with you. May Christ go behind you to encourage you, beside you to befriend you, above you to watch over you, within you to give you strength, and before you to show you the way, both now and forevermore. Amen.